So it's been almost 3 decades, and Giorgio Armani finally has released an Eau De Parfum version of their classic Acqua Di Gio. This is a fragrance that was released in the mid-90s, composed by Alberto Morillas. And is this going to be a stronger, denser, longer-lasting version of the original while still keeping that high compliment factor? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before I begin this video and my formal review on Acqua Di Gio Eau De Parfum by Giorgio Armani, I do want to start things off by mentioning that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that bell icon so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And give this video a thumbs up if you take something of value from today's episode. So here we have the Eau De Parfum version. When you take a look at the note breakdown, it's actually quite different from the original. Whenever I think of the original Acqua Di Gio, which I've been wearing for many years now, at one point it used to be my quote-unquote signature scent. That note breakdown has lime and jasmine, a lot of clean white florals. Now, one thing that we've been seeing lately in the industry is the use of clary sage, which also goes by the name of sclarine in its synthetic form. And this molecule is found in fragrances like H24 by Hermes, and a lot of different brands and companies are using it to kind of give this fresh, aromatic, modern, classy, contemporary feel. But this fragrance actually also borrows some fougere elements. So it has the lavender in here, it has geranium, which adds this bright and open nature to the fragrance, in addition to that mandarin orange that you're going to get in the opening. But of course, Acqua Di Gio, as the name implies, aqua, this is going to be a sea, marine kind of a fragrance, and you do get the sea notes that are in here with a darker base on account of the vetiver and the patchouli. In any case, I'm excited to give you my thoughts on this fragrance, let you know how I think it stacks up to the original. If you had the opportunity of purchasing one of them, which one should you go for, the original or this one? All of that's going to be covered very soon. Let's take a quick look at the presentation. In the opening of this fragrance, immediately you will make that connection to the original Acqua Di Gio. So it's going to jog a lot of the same memories, but the more time you spend with it, the more you start to realize that, wait a second, this is actually a bit different from the original. Now, the original has this clean, aquatic, oceanic, white floral component about it, and it also has that citric opening on account of the lime and some other citrus ingredients, and it kind of retains that citrusy, aquatic freshness all throughout. Now, with this one, you have that bright, strong aromatic vibe that's also found in a lot of 2022 and 2021 releases. So it has a clary sage, it has a lavender, so you have like this modern contemporary fougere kind of a vibe to the fragrance, and I feel like the lavender and the geranium contribute to that a lot. But you also have remnants of the original DNA in here as well. So I feel like it's a nice balance of a slight reinvention, but also paying homage to the original. Now, another thing that I noticed about it too is there's a touch of sweetness to it. Now, it's a little bit of like a coumarinic sweetness, so you're gonna get a bit of a tonka bean vibe, but it's ever so mild. It's like 10% of the total smell. So 90% of it is gonna be oceanic, citrusy, aromatic, and then there's that 10% lingering in the base alongside the vetiver and the patchouli. Now, there is an earthy tonality to the fragrance, but I think it binds everything rather well because in some ways, lavender can come across smelling rather earthy, so can clary sage. And so I feel like, the vetiver and the patchouli, it's still very much so on the clean side of things because that's kind of what this fragrance is, right? It's a very clean, olfactive expression, as is the original from 1995. Now, the original is heralded as being one of the most complimented fragrances ever, and I can certainly attest to that because when I wore it for many years, I've had a bunch of people ask me what I was wearing, and I would always get complimented. Granted, I haven't worn it in a long time, and I forego wearing it so that I can wear Profumo or Profondo Lights, which is one of the more recent ones. But in the case of this fragrance, I do think that while it does stay a little bit similar to the original, original, it has a bit of that modern reinvention to it. So here's the thing. I think you should purchase this one. Now, if you're going to buy a fragrance for nostalgic reasons, buy the original by all means, right? If you rocked it in the 90s, maybe even early 2000s, you want to be brought to that decade, totally fine, right? I get it. Get the original. But I think you kind of run the risk of smelling like someone's ex-boyfriend. And that's something that I've heard a lot in regards to the original Acqua Di Gio, as well as many other fragrances like Cool Water by Davidoff, Curve by Liz Claiborne, that sort of ex-boyfriend vibe that a lot of these fragrances have. So for that reason, I would say go with the Eau De Parfum because it has more of a modern twist. But consumers, please be warned and advised, this does not smell 100% like the original, because I know that that's something that happens sometimes, right? It's the same exact formula, but they just increase the oil concentration by a couple notches. That's not what's happening here, right? They have tinkered around with the formula to bring you a fragrance that smells slightly different from the original, but I think it's different in a good way. So it's heading in the direction that we're kind of expecting, and so I'm not totally wowed by, you know, the overall product in the sense that it's not totally different from the original, which is good, right? As a flanker, you don't want it to be this completely different thing, because then they're just using the name to capitalize on, you know, the releases, and they know that it'll sell because it has the familiar name. But I think it stays similar to the original while doing things differently in a modern sense, and I personally really like it. So I do enjoy the Eau De Parfum version. I think it's a solid release if you appreciate the original and what it does, but you're looking for something that is more with the times and you're a fan of the note of clary sage, I think you'll really enjoy this one. I'm personally a fan of it, and it goes without saying that my wife loves it as well. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, it's not the most unique fragrance in the world. Yes, it is going to remind you of the original, but it does things differently enough to warrant a purchase, even if you already own the original. Now, it also is quite different from the Profumo version. Now, Profumo also has the patchouli in there, but it's quite different from that version as well. So you can rest assured and be confident knowing that if you do buy this and you already own one of the predecessors, it's not going to be a redundant purchase. Overall smell, incredibly pleasant, very high compliment factor, mass appealing, and that's kind of something that this line is known for. Longevity on this fragrance was about 8 hours. The projection was great for the first hour of application, and it didn't start to sit closer to the skin until the 6-hour mark. Great performance, definitely in line with that Eau De Parfum designation. Versatility is great all year round, in my opinion. Some might say in the dead of winter, you know, you want to wear something like Profumo. I totally get it, but for the most part, it's fairly versatile. I can see anybody of any age enjoying this one as well. A younger crowd because it is modernized somewhat, but an older crowd because it will carry over a little bit of that element of nostalgia as well. And I think it does lean a little bit masculine, especially if you've already associated through personal experiences, if you've associated the original with being a masculine scent because you're just used to smelling it on a bunch of guys, right? In terms of the presentation, I like how they kept it simple and they didn't, you know, give a funky color to the bottle, just very, you know, simple, clear, white and black aesthetic. My final verdict on this fragrance is I think this is a really nice reinterpretation of the original. I think it still possesses a bit of the original DNA in here, so some people who might want to avoid that altogether might avoid the Eau De Parfum, but I do think that it's been reinvented to a nice degree to still allow for that baseline similarity with the original, but still give it that contemporary edge on account of the clary sage, the citrus, the lavender, and the geranium. But you are going to miss some of those, you know, familial elements from the original, including the lime and the jasmine. But in any case, you let your own nose be the judge. Try it for yourself. I hope you enjoyed my review of Giorgio Armani's Acqua Di Gio Eau De Parfum. If you did, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. It's all I ask. It would mean a lot to me, and it's totally free. Hit the bell. Give it a thumbs up if you took something of value from today's episode. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.